Hey, Kat, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. You've met Aaron.
Yes.
And tonight we are talking about, would it be safe to say your favorite band?
One of my favorites.
Okay.
I have another one that I'm very fond of, but yeah, they're in the top two. Yeah.
It's okay. You're not band cheating by any stretch, but a band that you certainly have an affection for and a recent affection for.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I know that people have been fans for years. They've been together for, I don't know. I don't even know what date they formed. It was many, many moons ago, and I knew they existed. They get airplay on the radio, and I've heard them in the car, and they have that song where they yell about a payphone. And my husband his best friend is a huge fan. Went to McMaster at the same time they did, so went to all the little shows that they used to play and talked about them incessantly. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I liked a band called Motion City Soundtrack. I still do. I'm friends with them. They're wonderful. So I was kind of like, well, they suck up all my time and my money. So I'm not prepared to, get attached to another band. But I blame George Stroumboulopoulos for all of this, by the way, because fall of 21, I was visiting my mother in Ottawa. She wasn't well. Upstairs, just scrolling through my phone, going through YouTube videos, and it takes you on this deep dive through the algorithm, and one thing leads to another. And next thing you know, I'm watching George's show, and it was from a few years back where he used to host concerts in people's houses, and he had the Arkells on. And the first song I watched was Making Do. I think it was the first one they actually did on the show. I could be wrong. And I was like, wow, they're really good. Like they're really, really good. And where have I been? Kind of thing. So like 3:00 in the morning comes around and I've watched this whole series of videos that George had done. And I'm like, well, now I have to download all their music. And there's a lot of it. Yeah. A lot of it. I mean, yeah. I'm late to the game here, and I'm by far not an expert at all. I mean, there's people who followed them for years, and they know far more. I don't. This is not my area of expertise. I'm a nurse. I usually talk to the media about vaccines and public health and the importance of protecting yourself. So talking about a band is really weird for me. Especially a band that I'm so new to liking. I mean, Motion City, I could tell you anything about them, but like Arkells, it's been a whirlwind 18 months or so. So that's how I got down the rabbit hole, and then it just took off from there. Not sure if you want to hear the rest of the story.
Well, we certainly can.
Okay.
I know, well, you said you're a little foggy on some of the early beginnings, but it turns out Aaron was sort of hovering about those early beginnings when you went to see them live. But before we do that, as Aaron knows, we always like to start the show with a little thing called Ask Harrison. Now, Harrison's not here right now because he's asleep. It's Australia. So we have today, for the first time ever, you're doing the mustache. So you can
the mustache and the hair.
Right. So for the very first time ever, we have Ask Aaron.
Get my coffee, going to get my... Whoa, it's Jeff Taylor, also making coffee.
Let's start the day right. Oh, hey, Aaron, by the way, why did you ever move back to Ontario?
Unterrible. Aaron's been all over the country. He's lived in Montreal. He's lived in Saskatoon, but not recently, but he returned to Ontario, and I'd love to know why.
Always for school or work.
Always. That's a very...
Yeah, always practical. We do travel for fun. So we were in Montreal from 99 to 2001 so my wife could do her master's degree at Concordia. And then I got a job through the job that I had in Montreal. They promoted me and sent me to run an office for them in Saskatoon. So we moved out there and we were there till 2005. And then we came back to Ontario because my wife got it up here, which she's still doing in 2005, in 2023. So she's been doing that a long time.
Awesome. Glad to
So
have
it's
you
all
back.
boring. I'm sorry, coffee making dude. I'm really sorry. That's a very boring answer. Uh,
Well, no, we're glad to have you back in Ontario, and we will hook up
yeah.
this summer. We were just talking about it today. Aaron's like an hour away from me right now, so
Uh,
we will
Oh
hook up.
yeah, you're in Kincardine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
awesome.
That's right. This is not the big city.
I have to apologize then on behalf of everyone in the town around you, because my boy played a soccer game on Wednesday night against that town's team, and the final score was 10-0 for us. It
Good
was
for
a bit
him.
of a drubbing, so I am sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll support you. But
Okay.
anyway, let's talk about Arkells. 2008, you said?
That's when I saw them, yes. We were, do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So we were down in Toronto just because we hooked up with our buddy Brian. Have you ever met Brian?
No,
Mike?
I'm
Okay.
not.
He's one of the good guys. We should introduce you.
Okay.
But we were down there, and one of my favorite bands, who are now defunct for quite a while, and especially at the time, was Immaculate Machine. I don't know if you guys know the Immaculate
I
Machine.
remember the name.
Yeah. They awesome. Look them up, get all their records. Anyway, they were playing at the Horseshoe in on Queen Street there. And so we got tickets and hooked up with Brian, and we went to the gig. And there were actually 4 bands on that bill that night. And it was March 22nd, 2008. So I looked it up. There's nothing on Setlist FM, so I can't tell you what songs they played. But the Arkells played first of the 4. And, you know, there's one paragraph that I wrote here, and this is very easy. I said, you know, I might be jaded in my old age. This is 2008. So I was
Your
thinking
old
my
age.
old age then, right? After having been to so many shows, but I frankly never expect much from opening acts at gigs like this. It's a small club. It's 4 bands on the bill. Some band from Hamilton's coming in. You know, it's usually a local band we'll never hear of again. They're up there rocking out for their friends and having their moment, right?
Right.
But the Arkells really impressed us. They were tight, talented, and highly entertaining. Their presence on stage was of a band well seasoned, so kudos to them. Their music fell. Now, this, I'm not starting anything here. This is what I wrote in 2008. Their music fell somewhere between the Strokes, the Trues, and the Gin Blossoms. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Okay. And their drummer hits really hard, and that makes me happy because I played the drums, and anybody who can pound a kit like that is just awesome.
I like watching him play. I like physically the physicality of his playing.
Yeah. There's stories about like the Midnight Oil drummer, and they have to actually bolt the drum kit to the stage because otherwise it'll shift forward while he plays in a show. But it said I would listen to them again, no problem. So we were there to see Immaculate Machine, and they went on second. So we sat through Arkells. Actually got up because they were better than that. They can't sit through those guys.
Right.
And then Immaculate Machine played next, and I got to meet a couple of there were 3 members in the band. I got to meet 2 of them that night. The other bands that were on, hold on, I have it here. The last band was a band called Lady Hawk. I don't know who that is. And there was a band before them called Flash Lightning.
No.
And we didn't stay. After the Immaculate Machine, we left.
Wow.
Just because they were who we were there to see. And so we went and we had something to eat and walked around after the show. We didn't stick around.
In that case, I'm glad Arkells had the opening slot. Otherwise, you might never have seen them.
You might have missed them.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have had albums of theirs in my collection, and they sort of go in and out. They're one of those bands where I own the album and then I enjoy it, and then something happens or I need the money and I'm boxing stuff up and I move them out, and then they seem to come back into the collection later. You know, oh hey, there's an Arkells album, you know, like Michigan Left or whatever, and grab it and play it again. And so I don't tend to keep them around, but they do come back every once in a while. But I remember being really impressed with the live gig. So I think it's neat knowing hearing you guys talk.
Well,
then it was early days.
It's going to be right here, you know.
Yeah, but I looked it up just now, and it says here they formed in 2006.
So you saw them pretty fresh.
Well, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
It says here, Jackson Square, their debut album, was released in October of 2008, and we saw them in March of 2008.
So the album wasn't even out.
No, yeah, so they were just playing whatever, I guess. I don't know, probably practicing those songs before the album came out and trying them out on people and stuff like that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it says that tour was actually later on. They were an opening act for Matt Mays and El Torpedo.
Like him too.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's Wikipedia, folks.
I'm not going to take up too much air, but I'll just really quickly tell my story.
Sure.
Which begins with Whistleblower from the excellent Michigan Left album, 2011. And this was played on the radio a lot. Mm-hmm. And actually, I can remember distinctly listening to Whistleblower in my boss's car on a road trip back from the United States, driving actually through Hamilton. And that song was playing. And I didn't know that they were from Hamilton at that time. If I did, I would have liked that connection very much.
Yeah.
A few years later, I was at Sunrise Records when they reopened and decided to buy an album on vinyl. And I went for this one because of the song Leather Jacket, you know, the payphone. And I made a good choice. This is my favorite Arkells album. We'll get into all that stuff in a bit. But only recently have I started re-listening to this stuff, and it all of a sudden has really clicked with me. Aaron, you know roughly what's been going on. And for whatever reason, this music has been soothing to my soul. And I have been playing one of these Arkells albums pretty much every day for the last 2 months.
Good.
Often multiple times a day. So that's one reason why I thought, let's do an Arkells show. The other reason is because I know Aaron's not a big social media guy. If you were and following her on Twitter, you would see so many photos of her with Max and the gang, and I ran into Max and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Kat, I have a slideshow of some photos that you sent me. Do you want to take a look at that, and you can offer your commentary over these photos?
Okay.
Okay. So just so you are aware, each photo I put is 15 minutes long. So I just need to find the folder. And
Each
bear with
photo is 15 minutes?
Right?
Sorry, 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. That is New York City in December. So cold. And New York is not my favorite place. It's so big and so crowded and people are so rude. But the show was amazing.
Oh.
That is with my sister and Max backstage in Ottawa. Dragged my sister along. She made me get seats. That's a story I'll tell later. She doesn't like to stand up.
I don't either.
Yeah, but come on. That is
now.
Glasgow, Scotland.
Woo!
Yeah. Went to the UK, saw a bunch of shows in a row. That's another story. But note, I'm wearing a Hutch's t-shirt, which is a fish and chip place in Hamilton. That's the rally. That's with Tim and Tony. I don't know, outside the venue somewhere, Tim Hortons Field last June. That was actually the very first time I'd seen them live, and I was a mile away. I was practically in the parking lot.
That's a cool photo.
That is Lights and Max in, I want to say Manchester, but I could be wrong. I can't remember. One of the UK shows, definitely. I should remember. That is Birmingham.
I love his roulette shirt.
I know. It's like Atlantis Casino or something. And he was like leaning right over top of my friend Rosie and I. And it was like, we could not have been closer. It was amazing. So amazing. That is my friend Jim from the UK, his friend John, my good friend Rosie, my good friend Emily. We all
your good friend Max.
Apparently at that point. Yeah, that was Birmingham. And we drove all over the UK. That's my sister and Max in Ottawa. Jillian's going to love this. She's going to be so thrilled that I put her in. She's going to be just over the moon. It was really cold and I made her stand outside to say hello because, what's the point in going if you can't say hi and good show, right? So
That's awesome.
That's
You
pretty
really
cool.
traveled around to see them too.
Yeah. I love to travel, and I love traveling to see bands. I've seen Motion City Soundtrack, and friends of mine are in a band called Barstool Prophets.
What? Hold on. Stop.
Stop the presses.
Oh wait, I knew that. Yes,
Yeah.
we've had this conversation. Yes. Okay.
They used to be a band.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Story. Yeah,
Cool.
fun story. Before I was a nurse, I actually did work in the music business. I worked
Right.
for a music publisher for a hot minute, and worst job ever. I mean, the music business is a business. Don't ever forget that. It's all about money. And I mean, I like money. I don't begrudge them money. They need to make a living, right? But it was copyright and very dry stuff. And I am not suited for an office. So, I mean, but it was great to get to know different artists, and Barstool Prophets were one of them that have sort of stayed friends over the years. So, I mean, I've driven around Ontario to see them back when I worked with them, and even when they were touring after that, and then Motion City Soundtrack, I've driven all over and flown lots of flights. So, I mean, when I got into Arkells Christmas of 2021, I was like, well, obviously I'm going to get on a plane to see these guys because, I know they're from Hamilton, which is actually where I live, but they only play like the rally there. And I don't know if you've seen the rally, but it's like 30,000 of your closest friends in one venue, which is fantastic. I mean, there's such a good energy. It's a big live show, right?
Are they the headliner for that then?
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's their show. It's their rally.
Yeah, and I mean, Hamilton goes nuts for it. I mean, they're not having it this year, and people are really heartbroken. But it's an expensive show. Like, I mean, working in the business 100 years ago, I get that touring is so expensive. Yeah. People think that musicians make a lot of money, and some of them do, but lots of them, it's expensive. So
especially right now, like a lot of bands have been canceling their tours 100%, because it's not viable.
Yeah. So I mean, touring is like when the Arkells went to the UK, like I cannot imagine what that cost. People were upset because they only brought like 4 t-shirts or something. To bring your merch across the ocean, people don't understand the logistics of it, right? Anyway, but it's great for exposure. And so, yeah, they had the rally planned in June, and I was like, well, we're going to go to that. But of course, by the time I got tickets, we were like in the parking lot. My friend Jim, who you saw in the photo, came over from the UK. I met him on Twitter. So of course you invite people that you've never met before from another continent over to stay at your house, which he did. He's fantastic. I love him. And he was a great house guest, and we went to the rally. But then they had this tour in the UK planned for September. And all of my family is in the north of England. Pretty much it's my sister and I, that now that my mom's passed away. It's my sister and I here, and everybody else is in Yorkshire and Manchester, Derbyshire. So I'm like, well, wouldn't it be great if I could mix up a visit with my family who I haven't seen in 3 years since my mother died or anything, and go to that? And my husband's like, do it. Just do it, because you can go see your cousins and everything. And I roped in my friend Rosie, who lives in a town called Morecambe, which is the north of England. And she used to go see, she went to see Motion City with me many, many times. And she's up for anything. And I messaged her one day, and I'm like, I really like this band Arkells. Do you want to go see them 6 times, 7 times, 8 times in the UK? And she was like, yes. Never heard of them. Didn't know how to have a clue. I had to send her music. And she's like, I'll go. She's such a good sport. And my friend Emily from New Jersey was in, because we'd seen Motion City together. So we knew that we traveled well, and we were into the band thing. And Jim offered to drive. So poor Jim drove 3 women all over the UK for a week. Bless heart.
So that explains the chauffeur comment that I saw on Twitter today.
Yeah. I mean, we took trains, and I took buses to visit my family. But like at one point, Jim picked us up and then drove us like from, I don't know, Morecambe to Glasgow to Birmingham to Manchester, and then back down to London. It was wild. It was crazy. It was so much fun.
Can you guys hear this crazy bird?
Is that a bird?
He's going nuts.
He's excited about the Arkells.
Pissing me off.
Yeah.
You think that would be a squirrel going nuts?
Well, it could be. It could be. Continue, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was big, and I've seen them After that, I saw them in Ottawa with my sister. My sister, when I said to her, I'm like, yeah, I'm really getting into this band called Arkells. And she's like, duh, they're a thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I have their albums. And I mean, my sister does not go to concerts. I dragged her to see Motion City Soundtrack in Anaheim in January of 2020. And that's when I learned that she was really upset you didn't get to sit down when you're in the front. She was like, why do I pay extra to stand up? Those people at the back have seats. I want to sit down. And I'm like, no, we're getting here early and we're going to be in the pit. And she's like, I'm not standing for 4 hours. She did stand for 4 hours though, because I made her. But yeah, and she was like, she was like, I know the Arkells. Where have you been? Like, what rock do you live under in Hamilton? And I'm like, well, apparently a big one. So there was that, and yeah, saw them 12 or 13 times in the last year.
Well, I counted your list, and it was 13 on your list.
Great.
Lucky number.
Which is, like a lot of people. My coworkers are like, yeah, we're used to you. We've worked with you for like 15 years now, and this is just what you do. And they're really good about switching shifts with me so that I can go on these little band things. There's the odd person who's like, that's really weird. That's really weird.
But
You're in your 50s.
what's the difference between that and a generation earlier, someone who follows the Dead on tour for 4 weeks in the summer?
Or does anything. What's the difference between joining a soccer league? What's the difference between, I see people on bikes going down my road at like god awful in the morning, and they're like in this gang, and I'm like, what is the difference between getting into that and going to see a band? Let people enjoy what they enjoy. Let people have a good time.
Amen.
And I don't know why people are so resentful, and I don't know if resentful is the right word, maybe jealousy, I don't know, but like there are people who are like, why do you do that? Why do you do that? And it's like, well, I have a job. I pay my own bills.
You're an adult.
And Justin from Motion City always said to me and his audience, he'd say, if you like a thing, support that thing. Tell your friends that you like their art. Go to their shows. Buy their merch. I buy all the t-shirts. Do I need 15 Arkells t-shirts? No, I don't, but I have them all because it's like, I want to be supportive, and that's what you do. And it's like, you should let people enjoy things. If they're having a good time, I'm having a good time. I'm not hurting anybody. I go to work. I do good work. It's like, let me see my band and shut up. But
you know what? I don't want to pontificate too much on this, but especially somebody who's working in healthcare right now, give her a break. Let her go enjoy a band. And you know what? At least she didn't pick like fucking, I don't know, what's is it BTS or whatever? Or my wife who just shouted from her window, or Nickelback.
Wow, no. See, I mean, hey, but if you like Nickelback, that's fine. Because if Nickelback is your thing, do that thing, enjoy that thing.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I don't get why people have to trash. And like you say, healthcare. It's been like, I don't know.
3 years of hell.
It's been a shit show, and like I get death threats daily now, daily on Twitter. People threatening me with Nuremberg 2.0, which indicates they don't understand what Nuremberg was, or I'm not going to go down that path. It's a really, but I mean, and my mother died in a very somewhat public fashion last January. It was in the media because of the convoy, and Arkells were involved in that too, which kind of I mentioned, and it became an article in the media about when my mom was very ill and it was clear she wasn't going to survive. I got in the car at 2:00 in the afternoon and I put on the song Making Do and listened to it over and over and over again, all the way to Ottawa, over and over again. I needed to get there, and I needed something to distract me, and I am terrible with lyrics. This is reason number 362. I'm not in a band. Other than the fact I have no talent, I can't remember words. I can't remember dates. I can tell you all about drug interactions and like medication.
You could be in a band and know that information.
Right, make those into lyrics.
But I could not remember the words of that song. So I put it on. I was just like, by the time I get to Canada, I am gonna know every freaking word of that song. I just am. And so I listened to it over and over and over again. And learned it. It'll play tomorrow and I'll forget them again. But you know what I mean? But it was just sort of like, so there was it was a terrible, terrible year. And if I wanted to go see a band to distract myself, I did.
I know
And
Aaron will remember this, but I had my own terrible year in 2018, and it was my wife's mother at that time.
I do
And
remember.
it was me driving to Toronto as often as I possibly could for about a month and a half to see her, and she hung on as long as she could, right? But Aaron will remember this because 2018 was the last time that you and I went to Tirana to
Oh
do
my
our
God,
record shopping
really?
excursion.
5
It
years,
was.
Mike.
It's been
That's
5 years.
reprehensible.
We used to do it every year, but
I'm
it's been
going on
5
Sunday, bud. Let's go.
I know. But my point is that record shopping trip, she encouraged me to go. Her mom encouraged me to go. She's like, no, go have a good time with your friend Aaron. So we did. And I bought an album called Combo Akimbo by the band Blotto out of Buffalo, I believe. And you were like amused by this album. I'd never heard anything but one song before. And I played it and I put it on a little flash drive. And that album became the soundtrack for that entire summer of driving to and from Toronto. And it's comedic rock, but I think with talent and intelligence. And it made me smile when I needed to.
Yep.
So, that summer, Blotto were my Arkells.
Yeah.
And this summer, the Arkells are my Arkells because I've been dealing with a lot of weird shit. And for whatever reason, this music and these lyrics are really hitting me. And one thing I am disappointed about is that as far as the credits on the album goes, all the songwriting credits are music and lyrics by Arkells. And I'm kind of curious, though, where individual ideas come from. And I would suspect that Max would have to be the primary lyricist. And I hear songs like Fake Money, and I know that he's like a poli-sci major. Fake Money has to come from him. But
I would, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, putting on my very, very old and tattered music publishing hat.
Yes, please.
I know for a fact that a lot of bands split songwriting credits equally throughout the members because songwriting is where the money is, really. Yes. So that might be the reason. As to where the ideas come from, who knows? I remember asking a very well-known artist, like, where did you get that idea? Like, where did you get that songwriting idea? What does that song mean? And he replied, it means whatever you want it to mean. The words rhymed. And I'm like, really? Because it's really a deep song. And I'm just like, there's got to be more to it. And he's like, yeah, no, it rhymed. And that was, it may have whatever meaning you want, but we kind of went in a direction. So I try not to read into songs too much. Like, people ask me why I was making Do the song. And it's like, well, I don't know. But like, I mean, so whatever that meaning came from, I don't know who it came from in the band. It might be Max, it might be the others, it might have been like somebody had a seed of an idea and built it around it. I'm not sure, but that's interesting.
And what you just said about how the lyrics mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah.
To me, Fake Money, it seems pretty clear it's about banking and that kind of thing, trading. But when I listen to it and I apply it to people in my life, I have a completely different interpretation of Fake Money, and I won't get into it, but it's more about a single person. And there's certain, hang on, let's get the lyric sheet out here. Just one moment, because they're so good. They are so good. You're playing a board game up in a boardroom, but you're just a bored kid alone in your bedroom. I love that line. And I associate that with a person. But there's so many good lyrics on this album. And there's a reference here on Cynical Bastards to Jackson Square dropouts avoiding police. So first album throwback. I believe Fake Money, the phrase Fake Money comes up on the next album, Morning Report, as well. I've just been noticing a lot of things as Jen and I were listening to these albums on the way to the cottage this afternoon. And I find these lyrics to be quite profound, and whether I'm interpreting them right or not, who cares?
Who cares? Whatever they mean to you is what they mean to you, right? And
right.
they're touching you, and that's what I think music is all about: is reaching people and affecting their lives. And what a great thing for a band, right? Like, how great is it to make art that affects people's lives like that? Like, I mean, I come from a family who, like, my sister's a teacher, I'm a nurse, my mom worked for the Humane Society. It was like all about making the people around you better, you know?
Yeah.
You know, even if like, you don't have to be a saint or anything, which I'm definitely not, but you know, making the people around you better, making their lives a little bit better. Not all the time, because you know, we're all people and different, but like, how amazing is that a band could touch that many people? And a huge responsibility. I mean, it must weigh heavy on artists like that, who have people look up to them like that.
Oh, I would imagine so. I would
Yeah,
imagine so.
a
And
lot
it's
of pressure.
unavoidable. It goes back through history, from, you know, the earliest bands, and people saying, oh, so and so saved my life, and all that other stuff. You know, when I was growing up, for me,
Yeah.
it was Kiss that helped me get through the dreadful years of grade school. And you know, it's different music hits you differently at different points in your life. And the interesting thing, it's another thing that Jen and I were talking about on the way to the lake, is that these guys are much younger than me.
Yeah, me too.
but yet there's lyrics here that I'm identifying
Not me.
with. And also, it kind of, some of these lyrics are a throwback to, you know, in my 20s, when I remember a night, one cold night, when someone called me up on a payphone and, can you drive me home? And I happened to have a crush on that girl, and I was just like, oh, she called me. She called
I'm
me.
gonna get you.
So, and you know, I found her in a phone booth next to a donut queen of all places, and I drove her back to her place. And then some guy comes up to my car, he's like, oh, thank you so much for getting her home safe. And I'm like, of course. Like, so, you know, like, it's a throwback too, and that probably has nothing to do with the song Leather Jacket.
Probably not, but that's what it means to you. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember payphones quite well.
Who
Yeah,
the fuck
and
uses a payphone?
me for most of my childhood. In fact, all of it. I don't. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's each individual person interprets things differently, and I think that's part of the great thing about music, is how much it touches your lives in different ways. So, you know, and
Yet
and
there's
I
a
mean,
certain undeniable magic, and
yeah.
that's the word I'll use. There's some kind of combination between the music that they write and the lyrics that they put to that music.
Yep. And they attract the best fans. Let me just say that. Like, everybody I meet in line is a new friend. Like Jim, who I met on Twitter and invited to my house, sight unseen. I'm like, sure, come on. I told my husband, I said, this guy from England's coming to stay. He's like, okay. But he's beautiful. And I mean, all the people I meet in line are wonderful, and it's such a small world. Like, in the UK, how many people from Canada I met? Some lady in Glasgow came up to me and said, I live around the corner from Hutch's. Turns out she lives down the street from me, because I live down the street from Hutch's Fish and Chips. And I mean, even chatting with the band and their manager, Ash, who is lovely, absolutely lovely. She's a delight. And she was chatting to Jim and Rosie and my friend Emily in Glasgow, and I heard her say, I think Jim asked her a question about, like, oh, you know, how do you pronounce your name? And she said, well, most people pronounce it wrong, because I grew up in a small town in Northern Ontario and my dad's a doctor. And I'm like, wait a minute. What small town in Northern Ontario? Because there aren't that many with a large population. And she's like, Sault Ste. Marie. And I'm like, I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie. So next thing you know, I'm like, wait a minute, your last name is Potvin, which I'm probably saying wrong. But that's how everybody in Sault Ste. Marie pronounces her dad's name. Her dad was my doctor for 22 years. So I'm just like, wow, it's such a small world. I know your dad. My mom knew your dad. My sister definitely knew your dad. Like, and she's Arkells' manager. So it's things like that. You meet people and you've got like all these connections. I went to see them in LA in May. Yeah, I know that's one of the 13, by the way, but that was weird, because I convinced myself I wasn't gonna go. I you know, been all over, and I was gonna give that one a miss, and they announced it kind of short notice before the date, and I was actually flying into LA the day after the show, because a friend of mine was getting married in Santa Barbara. And my husband and I had booked flights. We had all the hotels booked. And I said to my husband, oh my God, Arkells are playing the very day before we are getting there. I am so upset. And he's like, I cannot get one more day off. I can't. I'm maxed out for vacation days. And I'm like, that's unfortunate because I'm not. And
I'll see you there.
And that's about exactly how it went. I'm like, would you be really mad if I went a day early? And he's like, no, absolutely not. He's a saint. And he's like, no, do it. So I abandoned my husband the first day of our vacation to go see Arkells at Echoplex in LA. And I rebooked my flight, but booked a one-way ticket, which is the worst part is my husband doesn't fly well. So he would have to fly to LA on his own. With a connection in JFK. I like texted him the whole time he was flying to make sure he was like in the right place because his anxiety was probably up here. But anyway, I'm like the Arkells. I had to go. So yeah, I went to that show. I walked there by myself. By the time I left the show, I'd run into a person I knew. I made a new friend in a girl named Jenny. It turns out we were all staying at the same hotel. Yeah, and we walked back to the hotel together. So I mean, that's all. Like one of the big things for me is all the friendships I've made through this band. You know, that's incredible to me. And I mean, that's happened with other bands. I have tons of friends with Motion City. Actually, the girl whose wedding I was going to in Santa Barbara, I met her through the band Fall Out Boy. So you know, it's like, and now I'm going to her wedding in Santa Barbara, and it, you know, it's just incredible to me that like these long-lasting friendships have forged just from standing in a lineup. You
well,
know?
this guy here, I met him in 1996. Yes, you. I met him in 1996. I was managing a record store in Kitchener, Ontario called The Beat Goes On.
Oh my God.
And this guy walks in and he had a policy, and I imagine you still do, of getting to know your local record store guy.
Absolutely.
And that was 1996. And here we are coming up on gasp. We're going to be 30 years, buddy.
Oh my God. Don't you do that to me.
Yeah, I know.
I was just doing the math in my head. I was trying to remember where I was in 1996. And yeah, you're right.
He hasn't aged a day. Not a day.
Oh, come on now.
I'm serious.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, Kat, you mentioned a whole bunch of different cities that you've seen the Arkells in. You sent me a bunch of video clips. Do you want to take a 2-minute break while we watch a video?
Sure.
Want to do that? Okay, so what I've got 3 videos here. There's 2 that are 2 minutes and 28 seconds long. One of them's got a red background. One of them's got a blue background.
I can't remember.
Okay, so we're going to play the red background one. And this is the Arkells with a song that I didn't recognize.
This means that Mike would take the red pill, by the way, not the blue pill.
That very well could be. I didn't read that into it. I'm going to refresh my drink. Just so you guys know, these are vertical videos. So unfortunately, Aaron, you will be invisible.
Awesome.
But Kat, Screen, and I will still be visible. So you will see me going to refresh my drink. But this is the Arkells with a song that I did not recognize. And I'll be back in 2.5 minutes.
His heart makes the stars.
really want that shirt.
I want that guitar.
Sorry, what's that?
I want
You
that guitar.
That was
was-
Birmingham, by the way.
That was Birmingham. And what was the name of that
recognize-
song? Do you know?
Sorry?
What was the name of the song? Do you know?
John Lennon.
John Lennon. Okay. So I didn't say this earlier, but I only own 3 albums so far. Like I said, I'm kind of really getting into this band now, and I'm digesting the albums slowly. So I only own these 3, but I've had time to digest all 3. So I'm looking at my next Arkells purchase. Now, you told me to buy this one. I believe I have fully digested this one, and I'm ready for one more.
They have a new one coming out at the end of June.
Oh, well, maybe that's the one I should get next then. Laundry Pile.
With Laundry Pile. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, from what I can tell, this is sort of like an acoustic-based album.
I don't know. I'm going to be as surprised as you are. From what I've heard, it's slower than what I'm used to, but I'm excited for it. I'll totally buy it, and I'm going to go see them for sure.
These guys have done like an album a year since the pandemic.
That's incredible to me. Like they're just like, pumping it out, and I'm here for it. I'm buying all of it. So take my money, Max Herman.
Well, for me, it's going to be Slow and Steady wins the race, because I do like to take time, right? I like to take the time to digest the album. And, I won't say that these albums hit me immediately. It does take some time. But once they do, the songs just jump out at me. And I did prepare a list of my top 11 favorite Arkells tunes from these 3 albums. Would you guys like to hear my list and make some comments on my list? Okay. Absolutely. So, Aaron, you may remember this feature. This is something we used to do back in the LeBrain Train days that we're bringing back. This is something called the Nigel Tufnell Top 10. Of course.
Nigel Tufnell. The top 10. Nigel Tufnell. The top 10. Nigel Tufnell. Oh, these ones go up to 11. Nigel Tufnell. The top 10. Nigel Tufnell.
And for those who haven't figured it out, Nigel Tufnell Top 10 means that we go up to 11.
Oh, how much 53-year-old me is loving that. Nigel Tufnell.
There you go.
So many people today, so many kids who like the Arkells would not get that, but I get that because I'm an old lady. So yeah.
And I love how you just come out and you say it. You don't mince words. You just come out and say it. I'm an old fogey. Aaron's a bit young. Hey, T-Bone Erickson in the house. Hey, buddy. So nice to see you. That's T-Bone Erickson, who does all the music for the show. So thank you, T-Bone. Okay, starting with number 11 and working our way to number 1, I chose Savannah from Morning Report.
Okay.
And I just put notes. I put acoustic, anthemic awesomeness. Track 10, or number 10, I should say, is a song that you recommended to me. I believe you said Passenger Seat from Morning Report. What a falsetto there. Incredible. Max has an incredible falsetto, and he throws so much passion into every line. From the same album, I grouped them in albums. From the same album, number 9, Hung Up, another song you recommended.
Excellent.
The gatekeepers are keeping me out. It's so catchy. It is so catchy. Nothing wrong with being a fogey. If there's such thing as a young fogey, then I am probably it. That's true. Thank you, Harrison, for tuning in all the way from Australia. He's up, folks. He's up.
Morning, mate.
Oh, look at this. Your fans have started to show up.
Yay. Oh, no. Twitter. Cesspit.
Cesspit. Ron is one of the good guys. I haven't actually met Ron in person yet. Ron and I have been talking about going out for coffee for several years now. Speaking of which, ironically, here's a segue. Track 8 on my list is Coffee from Michigan Left. I chose this song for a very specific reason. There's one line of this song. And again, Aaron, you will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh dear.
But it is the line, "Does he hit you?" And that may or may not apply to people that I know in my life. Moving on to the Michigan Left album, On Paper. Really good, high energy song, powerful rock, killer chorus. Track 6, Whistleblower. That's about as heavy, I think, as Arkells songs get. It's just slamming. And we were talking about the hard-hitting drums. I love the video, and Tim is just wailing on those drums. I want to see him live. He's a very creative drummer, incidentally, especially on Segway, track 5, Michigan Left. There's some really weird percussion stuff going on. I'm not a musician. I couldn't tell you what he's doing, but I like it. I like it a lot. And who can't like that chorus, that decorations won't be wasted. Pardon me for singing. I'm no Max.
Woo,
And then moving on to my favorite album, High Noon, we have Come to Light. I kind of thought that they're channeling 80s Bowie on that song.
I love that
you guys
song.
be the judge. My wife's favorite song, Leather Jacket. Basically the song that started me in my Arkells purchases. So got to give kudos to that. But even better, I like 1111. But as I noted here, it's very hard to narrow things down when it's your favorite Arkells album. But it's hook laden and it has some nostalgia to it. I don't know, those young, innocent years of going out and meeting girls. And finally, my number one song is Fake Money from High Noon. Pure hooks from start to finish with an angry bent. There's something angry in his delivery. Like when he sings, sometimes he's on the edge of like losing control. It almost sounds like he's on the edge of losing control of his voice, but he never does. And he rides a fine line there. Again, I'm not a musician and I can't tell you exactly in technical terms what he's doing with his voice, but it hits me. It hits me. And then for honorable mentions, I put Cynical Bastards, Crawling Through the Window, Book Club, and Drake's Dad.
Awesome.
And that
Awesome.
is my
You
nice
asked me to
personal top 10.
think about a list. I couldn't because I can't narrow it down to 11 songs or 10, even 9, 8. And my tastes change. Like there's a few that are like top. Come to Light, Making Do is my own because of reasons, because of my mom, which somebody said to me, doesn't it make you sad to hear that song? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It reminds me of being strong enough to get through that. Grief isn't a linear thing. It's kind of Kubler-Ross. It's all mixed up. So, I mean, it's a reminder of my mother in a way. It reminds me that we got through that. My sister and I got through that. But if I had to pick a favorite song live, Nowhere to Go is amazing live. And I think I have a video of it somewhere, but I didn't send it to you. But it is so good. So good live. It just, I don't know. There's something about it. There's a saxophone. It's just so good. Gets everybody so excited.
They've been doing a lot of stuff with saxes and horns on some of these albums.
We have a whole horn section. Like there's like 20 people in that band sometimes. I don't know. It's like
I noticed earlier on when you were talking about the people in the photos, I would only know the keyboard player is Anthony, but you're like, oh, there's Tony. But I've noticed he's credited for all the horn arrangements on these albums.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, when he joined the band on High Noon, there became more of a pop bent.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that kind of increasing from album to album from my limited observations. And I wonder if that's his influence, but he's a tremendous musician. And hell, they all are. I pretend to be a bass player. And I was listening to some of the, I think it's Nick is his name, the bassist. Yep. I was listening to some of his bass lines, like on Come to Light. And I'm loving his anchoring of the bass. But Tim on drums, powerhouse, creative.
They're all so good. And together they are such a team. Like my husband does not like bands, doesn't go to the shows with me, has to get dragged kicking and screaming out of the house to go to anything. And I took him to the rally. And like I said, we were in the parking lot so far away. And he had a blast. And I can't wait for him to see them. We are actually going to the show in Prince Edward County, Campfire Chords thing. And I mean, I think it's going to be different. I think it's going to be like a sing-along thing, but I'm hoping, I hope he has as much of a good time because they are such a good band together. They are so in tune with each other, and not a lot of bands who perform live have that. They can do the album thing, but then when it comes to a live show, they can't pull it off. And initially, that's what got me into them. It wasn't the radio play. It wasn't the singles that got played on Indie 88. I hear them every day, and I just, walked right by and didn't notice. It was seeing them play live. It was like, wow, they are so good in front of an audience. And that's what really gets me interested in them. It's like, I love going to see live shows. So, yeah.
Can I make an observation that's not comparing the music so much as what you just talked about? Everything you just said makes me think of Sloan.
Oh, they're so good.
Right?
So good.
Individually, all of those musicians are fantastic.
Yeah.
But you put them together and the magic is there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what instruments they're playing in that band. They all
switch around
instruments, right? But when you were talking about the Arkells and all of that stuff, I can make anything about Sloan. But because I do love that band. But all of the things you just said, it all sounded like the same idea. And adding the horn section. When you go back, there's a point. Was it one chord to another?
It was one chord to another.
Where they added horns and everything just went up a notch. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always cheer for the horn section. I'm a trumpet player myself, so I know, right?
Wait a minute. Earlier in the show, you said you were a drummer.
I was a drummer. I played the drums, I played the trumpet, and I play the guitar, and I can really muck up the piano if you want me to. But people can play more than one thing. But yeah, when you're talking about the Arkells like that, it just, that's what came to mind. Not just because it's a Canadian band, not comparing the music so much, sometimes maybe, but not always. That knack for the pop song, adding the horns, everybody being awesome, but put them together and it just explodes, especially in a live situation. The first time I ever even knew about Sloan, I saw them live, and it's the same experience, right? Where it was, wow,
they're so good. Yeah. It's like, there's lots of bands that I wouldn't go out and buy their album, but I would go to their live show.
Look at that. Look at that.
I'll tell you what, T-Bone. I'll play so low you can't hear me.
I will tell you something, T-Bone, is that if you go back to some of the early Mike and Aaron Go to Toronto videos, Aaron supplied guitar tracks for some of those videos.
Oh, I
and
did too, didn't I?
I think you called some of them like unfinished garbage volumes 1 through 5.
Actually, it might have just been the S word 1, S word 2, S word 3.
Actually, that's true. You did do that as well.
Yeah.
And Chris Sarr is accusing Ron Holmes of being a cat stalker. But I assure you that is not true. Ron Holmes is on the up and up. Did you guys I don't know if you guys wanted to see another video clip. We are almost out of time, but we have more video clips if you wanted to see one.
Yeah. Can I just say too, that last video clip that you played, remember we were talking about the drummer and how hard he hits?
Yeah, you could hear it, eh?
That's all you could hear. Like the vocals needed to be louder in the mix. Now, it might have just been where the microphone was.
Or it's where I'm standing.
Oh, it's where you're standing? Okay, because like, the vocals almost drowned out.
Yeah, when you're at the barricade, often like leads, I was like practically on stage and I couldn't hear the vocals at all. And it's because you're actually behind the speaker stacks. You're kind of almost between the monitors and the speaker stack. So that's why my sound is terrible. I apologize.
No, I wasn't complaining about your video at all. I was just saying the drums were so on top of.
Jeez, Aaron, you're going to alienate our special guest here today.
No,
I'm just kidding. Let's take a look at another video here. Once again, Aaron, you will be off screen, unfortunately.
Awesome. Better for the show.
But we'll be on screen.
And there was a period of time I thought you guys were saying your shit. I got some news for you, Leeds. There's no quitting. There's no quitting.
Short and sweet.
always wanted to hear the rest of that. I know
Yeah, no
exactly what
kidding,
song
eh?
that was going to be.
But you
Yeah,
get
that
an
was
idea for the-
Yorkshire. And yeah, they kept yelling Yorkshire, Yorkshire, and I guess he heard your shit, and
Right.
it's like, no, it's Yorkshire, Leeds, Yorkshire. Yeah.
Did Mike
That's
freeze?
great stuff. Thanks for sharing these
Oh.
videos.
Yeah.
I promised you an hour, but I don't know how much time you guys have.
I got all night. Tip your bartenders.
Do some more tonight.
Hey, I wanted to mention, Kat, did you see what I did with my name?
I do now.
I did that for you.
There you go. There you go.
I'm very clever. I put Aaron, but then I didn't make Aaron.
There you go. You were close. Yeah.
Oh.
I just want to say thank you to Kat for joining us tonight. We can always do this again if you want to talk music again.
Absolutely. Oh, sure. Thank you for having me. I mean, like I said, I'm by far
I think we're
not
doing top Canadian bands that people outside of Canada haven't heard of, but I think we're going to be in the afternoon.
That's a tough one. I mean, with the internet now, that's tough.
Yeah. But anyway, you think about it. Kat, again, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to give you the salute as a healthcare worker in the most difficult years of our lives.
Thank you so much.
You deserve all
you
kudos in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the cottage internet, I'll bet you.
Yeah, I'm having issues. Out with Max the Axe.
Awesome.
Thanks
Very
a lot,
nice
guys. We'll see you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care, everybody.